run away from the fire. We ran into the fire, and we had no control over that. People wanted to act like maybe we had more control than we did. We didn't. The KHSAA made the decision, and you got to live with it. We weren't going to quit. Nobody. I don't think we lost any kids. We didn't lose any coaches over that.
Right.
We did what we had to do. Obviously, we didn't get the results that we wanted, but I think we got better as we played those guys, and we're not in the district of those guys anymore, so I think that helps, and so it should be an exciting year.
So interesting. I'm going to recap real fast. Audio, thanks for the text, Earlene. We had to reset something while we were talking. But we've got in studio today Coach Mofield and Coach Powers, both here. We're excited to have them for the Earlene and Steve show today. Coach Mofield was highlighting how there is such depth and breadth to the returning offensive and defensive line for those that just jumped on and can pick up the audio. But that's not your fault, Coach Mofield. I think it's a great handoff when you have those returning players coming back to the line. And then I would assume, Coach Powers, after the summer of training this summer and getting you're limited on coaching. We'll get into that in a minute before a school season starts. But you've kind of been able to play through that so you can see where your lineups are going to look. How are we looking for a lineup?
Yeah, I agree with Coach Mofield. When I first took this job, I was taking it all in, and when you're around the country recruiting in college football, you hear a lot of administrators, teachers, coaches talking about, even at good programs, that their kids are not as tough as they used to be, or they can't take criticism, and they lack some mental toughness. But my initial impression was unbelievable with our kids. Coach Mofield and the coaches have done a great job raising them the right way, and I'm very fortunate to inherit a team that's disciplined, that's tough, that understands how to take hard coaching. They play hard on Friday nights, and when I went around the state recruiting, I can't tell you how many programs were extremely complimentary to Coach Mofield and Meade County football for the way our kids compete on Friday nights.
That's amazing, yeah. I think anytime you can see the discipline on and off the field is a representation of more than just the coaches. It's also of the organization that you represent as a whole. And I think, we had Dr. Martin on last week, and Mark Adams from the superintendent's office, and we talked about this character coming up in our students and just the staff support that comes from teachers and everything else. But, I think being a coach is a different problem set, because it's not just during the school day where you're getting to coach and teach these kids for an hour at a class and then rotate. It's that 2 to 3 hours that you get with them when you're in that practice, and between the time they get ready to the time they step out on the field, and that discipline. Where do you see the growth of the program over the next couple of years, and taking what you've got now and then growing that so you get a lot more returning players and a lot more charisma into the program?
My goal is really, I think back to when I was a ball boy for the high school team. That meant everything to me, and I think my 5th grade year was the first year the youth league ever existed in Meade County. And you look at some of the guys I played with, and us all developing a love for the game at a young age. And my goal is to really invest heavily in the youth and middle school programs. And we're very fortunate to have Chris Brown at the middle school, who's great with kids and tries to get them all involved. And that's been the youth camp, the Roy A. Peace football camp was an unbelievable experience for me, kind of coming back home. I think the first year the camp existed, I was a senior in high school and spoke to the kids at the camp. So that was pretty surreal, being back in that camp, and I really, really enjoyed it. And every chance I get, I want to be involved with the youth and middle school and try to teach kids the value of football and what it can do for their life. And I think that'll be the biggest thing that pays dividends for the program moving forward.
Sure. Did you know that the Army actually has an app for football and coaching?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are y'all going to be using that at all, or do you know?
There's some decent technology on there where you can kind of play build, and and we've toyed around with it. Yes.
Yeah, so that's been my background in the Army, is working with the Army Gaming Studio and some of those other places. I was just curious, but I know it's a fantastic program. But the whole point is that it helps you figure out your lineup, your plays, and everything are all in digital. And then actually, when you put the opponent's teams in there and their lineups to your characters, it gives you the math problem, which is I know it's a geek way of looking at things, but today there's so many analytics that come into football. You'd almost have to be crazy not to look at it. I was watching a program the other day that the National Baseball League is actually using AI to determine the accuracy of a pitch. So I can only imagine that with technology, the youth of today trying to make sure that there's enough of a separation so they stay focused on the coach and their character and disciplines in place, that you don't want to let too much in, but you also want to be able to have a good mix of kids that are ready to be there and play. Speaking of that, during the summer, you're only allowed so many hours to interact with the kids. You want to talk about? Can you talk to us about those rules that limit engagement between the coaching and the actual players that happen during a summer before you come back together?
Are you talking about the HB 181 rule?
No, we're talking about coaching. You can't be on the field and practicing for the team.
Oh, the dead period.
Yeah, there's a dead period.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tough because you get limited time with them, and the restrictions in the month of June in the state of Kentucky are kind of crazy towards football. And so when you get done with the dead period, you got a lot of ground to cover, and the last 2 weeks have been huge.
Sure.
Post dead period, us with a new offense, a new defense, a lot of new coaches, we're really covering a lot of ground. But,
sure.
But I've been happy with our plan the last couple of weeks and the way we've executed it. But we've got a lot of work to do before our first game. That's for sure.
Is the dead period something that you guys look forward to, or is it just something you have to accept that's built into the program?
I think it's good. It's good and bad. And the good part of it, I do think kids need some time away.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst part is trying to get the kids reacclimated to the conditions. Like, Blake can speak to this more because he's living it right now. But the excessive heat we've had the last couple of weeks is, and what you have to worry about is, I one thing that I was always a little concerned and sometimes upset with our athletic association is, I feel like we put kids out there too early. As a state, you have to be careful to bark too much, because what can end up happening is, I think we start the season, high school football, too soon. I think it needs to be pushed back when the weather's a little bit better.
Yep.
Now, I don't want them to cut games, because football is already short enough as it is. You think the amount of work that goes in for football, because they started working in January,
right,
and they won't stop hopefully till first week of December, and so there's a lot of work that goes into it for a few 11. You're guaranteed 11 games, one playoff game, but the heat is a major issue in kids' conditioning. So coming off dead period, the good part of it is, I think they need some time away. I think it's good for the coaches to get some time away with their families. The tough part is when those kids come back, because you can tell kids this till you're blue in the face. Hey, when you're at the beach or when you're in the Smokies, you need to do something. They're not going to do anything.
Right.
I mean, that's just the reality.
Right.
And then as a coach, no matter what you do for player safety, and Blake's going through this right now, has been through it when he was in the Army. You can't control what these young men do away from the game, but then you're ultimately responsible when you come back. And you never want anything to happen to kids, because there's not a coach that goes out there and says, today I'm gonna hurt a young man. They're not. They love them. They love kids. They love coaching. That's what they're doing it for. But that's the only concern, I think, is you come back and then you're starting to add equipment, and there's a short window of when you go shoulder pads and helmets. I think it's probably still July the 22nd, and then you put full gear on August 1st, and then the next thing you know, you're scrimmaging in full gear, and some of these kids haven't had but a few days to have full gear on, and it's really hot, especially on these. We love our turf field down there. I mean, it was beautiful, but it's probably 10, 15 degrees hotter out there than it is, on the grass. So, but anyway, the dead period, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's good, but it can also create some issues when kids come back, because getting them back in shape because they haven't done anything for. Sometimes it ends up being about 2.5 weeks. You're all depends on when it falls.
Right.
Sure.
We had one of our writers. He actually touched base on the dead period, and I was educated because I didn't realize how significant it was and how strict it was that you guys actually couldn't have any contact with them.
Can cost you a season.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was impressed with what I learned about it, and it just helps me with that. One of the things I've noticed, so here in Meade County, some of the sports, students when they're in 8th grade, they can go ahead and start playing at high school level. But that's not the case with football, is it? Have you ever had an 8th grader on your team?
No, that's there's a physicality of football that
It's like wrestling and soccer.
You
those
have to
kids.
be careful because now are there some kids? It's very rare even at Meade County High School where we've had a freshman that's been able to play on the varsity level. Occasionally, you'll get a kid that's physically more mature, but it's very rare, especially in 6A football. We play at the highest level, and it's like grown men out there,
for sure.
and
for sure.
it's difficult. So I think for safety of kids, that's the best thing. The way that that's one thing positive with the Kentucky Athletic Association is keeping that separate.
That's good. So just so do you guys? Can you tell? Like when you see a younger kid playing, do you recognize talent early on? Like, can you see a kid who's maybe 9, 10, 11 years old and you think, I want to know him when he's a junior in high school?
Yeah, I think there's some kids at the camp that I was pretty excited about. And my wife makes fun of me because with our 5 children, I'll assess all of their future athletic ability at a young age. So, I'm always on the look for scouting out talent.
You're not feeling.
Right.
I've got both my boys are left-handed, and I said, Liam, if you stay as athletic as you are, you're either going to be a great pitcher or you could be a quarterback. But he's a lefty, and he's got a heck of an arm, but. We'll see what happens. But I'm like you in a lot of ways when you talk about that, watching them growing up.
Kind of the flip side of that, though, Blake is right. You can see the kids that have talent, but there's also these late bloomers. And the great thing about football is, not only do you need a kid that might be fast, who can throw, who can jump, but those linemen that's kind of what separates you, I think, in football, because if you don't have those big boys up front creating holes, giving your quarterback protection, or those guys on the defensive line that are stopping the run, forcing teams to throw and do some things that, and that's where, that's the reason we always kind of refer to it, like I said earlier, as big skill and little skill, because you never want those linemen to feel like they're not as much a part of.
Right.
So, they've got skill. It's just a different type of skill.
Oh, see, I understand this even from my perspective because you want an Ethan Spencer to take care of a Connor Cole, or even Braden, so you want him up front there. And I know these kids because they live in our neighborhood and I see them all the time. And we were talking about character earlier. I mean, just, you just know that these kids are going to be good. They're going to, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. They're honest. And so I do think that there's a lot of that positivity that comes out of having a strong football team like you guys have, a good program, the way you guys have, in your expectations and what you require from these boys when they're boys, when they're 9th or 10th grade, they end up being men. All 3 of these guys that I just mentioned, they're just graduated from high school, and they're men. They're very young, but they have been trained by their families and you guys to become men, and I'm appreciative of that as someone who lives in Meade County, and I know I can count on any of them. I could call them up and say, my tire's flat, and one of them would run over and help me.
So, Coach Powers, you're settled in, military move. Did you get to unpack the last box?
There's still a few boxes in the garage.
Does it feel good to finally know that, like, you've landed at a place that you're going to be at for a while? I know it was for me when I stepped away from the Army uniform, and I know it's much different in coaching, but, you've assumed this job role, and much like our military background, we move wherever the good Uncle Sam tells us to, right? So you're here on the ground, and does it feel good to just finally know that you're at a place that you can call home for a while and lock it in?
Yeah, it's been amazing coming back home for my children, and the way all the school systems have taken care of them and helped get them acclimated to a new environment. It's been a blessing and something I'm very thankful for, but it is a little weird when you're buying stuff for the new house. You know, every military move, I lost track of how many there was. I think 7 or 8 in there. And
Yeah.
you're buying stuff for that house temporarily. Now you're buying stuff for the long haul, and it's a little bit different.
It is. I try to express this to people because we can only pack so much when we do a military move, so we end up getting rid of half the stuff that we have, and then only to have to buy it again when we get to where we're going because we can't pack it and move it all the time. So that's stuff like curtains and stuff. But yeah, I can relate to that. But I have told my wife we're not getting any new furniture until my kids know how to not spill stuff on the couch. So
That'll be a while.
Coach Mofield, on your background, you have a tremendous record. I hope to see you someday in the Hall of Fame for Kentucky, and I know that that's it's like a timing and a process, right? But according 118 victories in your history, what is your greatest moment? It doesn't have to be a specific game, but what is your greatest moment from all of your coaching history?
You know, Steve, I don't know. I don't know. I was so blessed just to be here and be the head coach. I mean, I can't. The path that was laid for me, you know, with Wilson Sears, with Jim DeVries, with John Proctor, with Larry French, you know, I mean, I moved here in 1990 and I didn't, you know, you think you know a little football, but until you're around Larry French and John Proctor, you realize you don't know any football. And we would have camps over to middle school, and we'd bring 50 or 60 mattresses in there that we picked up at Fort Knox, and we would spend the night. And I mean, I just tried to be a sponge, a dry sponge in a 5-gallon bucket of water and soak up as much as I could. And it was an honor for me. And, you know, I tell people, you know, I moved here from Tennessee. I'm from Lebanon, Tennessee originally, and I came up. I met a assistant coach here named Gene Rollins. He was at the National Coaching Clinic in Nashville, and I met him, and I thought he was a head coach for the longest. And then back then there was no cell phone, so he just picked up the payphone and he called Barry Hahn. He said, "Hey, I got a guy that's interested in an elementary PE job." So I came up, and back then you didn't have site-based counselors. I met with Barry Hahn, and it was about a 5-minute interview, and he said, "You want the job?" And I said, "I'm going to take it." And I went and I got my stuff, and I moved up here, and then I had to eventually go back to Tennessee about 3 or 4 because they were doing football camp at that time. So went and I got my stuff, and I'm like, you know, and I love those guys, the camaraderie I had with Coach French, Coach Proctor, you know, Gene Sutton and Gene Rollins and John Hayes, and those guys were just tremendous to me. And Meade County football and the Meade County school system, it grew on me, and the people of Meade County, and the rest is history. You know, I'm sure I'm going to die here. Hopefully that's later rather than sooner. And,
right.
You know,
we all wish
but
that.
this is where my we raised our children. My wife teaches school here, and this is home for us now. We've been here longer than we were in Tennessee, so this is really home, even though we weren't born here. I kind of feel like I was raised here a little bit because I've been here for 30-some-odd years, and it's a great place to be, and it's just been an honor. So back to, I don't know if there was one. It's just a accumulation of being involved with these young people over the years, and I only applied for one other coaching job when I was here, and the only reason I did that was because my parents were getting older and frail, and I'm like, I wanted to be closer to them, I felt like, but, I didn't get that job, and in hindsight, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, and because I ended up being able to be the head coach here and raised our family here, and, things happen for a reason. It didn't work out there, and that was great, and that's the only one I ever applied for. And like I said, this is home, and it's just been a blessing to me to be able to do what I did for as long as I did, and to have the support of, I think, the administration, because when things aren't going well sometimes, I think the first thing people want to do is go and say, hey, we need to get rid of this guy. But I think that the administration saw things other than just wins and losses. They saw the things that we were trying to do with young men And I think the value of extracurriculars is evident in the Meade County school system.
Sure, 100%.
And we offer such a variety. And so these kids are blessed that come up through the school system to have so many opportunities to do things. And football happens to be one of them. Now, naturally, Blake and I would probably like to have 150 kids out there running around. But, we offer a lot of things, so there are a lot of things to do. But that's a blessing for kids, and that's really what this is all about. It's about the kids, and it's about the future of our county, future of our our state and country, and I can't point to one single moment. It's just a culmination of a lot of things that I've been fortunate to be involved in and be blessed with.
It sounds to me that the moment is not a moment, but it's a period, and it's the people that were that you were impacted by and those connections. I think that's brilliant, and it speaks to your honor for the community and how you've lived as a solid professional life, not only professional but personal. This was more than just a coaching job.
Oh, I can't even imagine when you knew for a fact that was your last game. You were playing. I just can't even imagine the kaleidoscope of memories that must have just been flashing through your mind and thinking about it and on your heart, knowing I'm closing this chapter. I mean, your children came through the program with you, and so you had the opportunity to do that. And that's why I think it is so amazing that you're passing this torch over to Coach Powers, and he also has children that will be coming up through the program with him. And I think that's a legacy that Meade County has. And I know that across the country there's a bazillion football coaches who have their kids playing with them, but it's kind of to touch base on what you said. This Meade County Green Wave, it's a serious thing. I mean, when you guys look up at that stands, you literally see a green wave because, we're dressed for it. We're there. We're cheering it on. And you're right, too. It doesn't matter if you're winning or losing. We're going to be right there with you. We're going to be right there supporting you and all that kind of stuff. And I'm so far on the other side. As far as things go, I couldn't tell you any stats or anything like that. I do know when we're winning or losing. I get that. But for me, I see something that you guys don't see because I'm in the stands, and I hear people talking, and, every once in a while somebody will yell something like, "Come on, coach," or whatever. And I don't know if you guys hear that or not when you're down there, but most of the time it is so positive. And if there is mistakes, it's like, "It's okay. Shake it off. You got it. And then if it comes up that it's a losing game, people are like, "That's okay. We'll get them next time." Nobody ever just wants to crucify you guys because of anything that falls apart on the field. And then when you guys are winning, I dare say they're just as loud for you in a positive, whether you're winning or losing, because they love you. They love this program. They love what you guys are doing. And so I've heard nothing but great positive things about Coach Powers coming in. I mean, you're right. It's big shoes to fill, but you're very humble, and you've put your heart out there on the line, and you've done such a great job. And I mean, how do you feel stepping into this? Was that hard for you to realize that you were coming in?
It's definitely very humbling to walk in the shoes of Coach Sears, Coach DeVries, Coach Proctor, Coach French, and Coach Mofield in the history of this program. And I said this at the football dinner. I'm nothing but a steward of this culture that existed long before me and will exist long after me. And my goal is to just continue making Meade County football what it's always been.
Right.
And that's high standards and high character on and off the field. And like what Coach Mofield said is so true. To me, the value is the kids and seeing what they do on and off the field. And one of the greatest things about the Army was seeing your soldiers do great things after the Army or staying in the Army and keeping in touch with them. And so I really look forward to that. But it is definitely a humbling thing to walk in the shoes of such great men that had such an impact on me. I think back to, Coach, I thought I was going to the NBA and playing basketball. And Coach Wilson, Coach Mofield, and Coach French convinced me that I had potential at quarterback, and I kind of fell in love with the game because of their influence. And those are some of the greatest memories of my life is being a Green Wave. And
Right.
Sure.
I owe everything to Coach Mofield, Coach French, Coach Wilson, and I hope I can be half of what they were to me, to our players.
Well, so I see that you're going to have an up-tempo play, a little bit different than usual. Can you describe the up-tempo play? And then a secondary question I have is, coming from the Army, the H2F program was like a big kickoff, right? And as well as I do, it's about having a lethal Army, right? So you've got a lethal team, not really ready to go kill anybody, but win the game, right? So how are you balancing that up-tempo and then health and fitness for the students, athletes? We talked about heat earlier. So how does that all balance with this new up-tempo that you're going to try to run in the program?
Yeah, I think that article was talking about our tempo of practice. When it comes to a game, I like to control the clock and run the football and wear teams down. But in terms of practice, I like to – you're only out there for so much time. You have the heat restrictions. There's certain days where if you're working for 30 minutes, you got to take 10 minutes off in the shade or the air conditioning. And so when you are able to get out there and get work in, I'm big on it being efficient. And sometimes that's a little stressful, especially with a new coaching staff and everyone kind of figuring out the new practice flow, the new system. There's a lot of thinking going on there.
Right.
So I like practice to be up-tempo and a little stressful to simulate Friday nights, and I think
that's good. I
think you grow the most through some uncomfortability and pain and discomfort is the fastest way to grow.
I always try to express to people, even in our Army life, it's live fire realistic all the time. Because you never know, right? You're laughing, Coach Mofield. But it's live fire realistic training, because if you don't feel like it is in the real game, then you're not going to know that pressure or that stress. Do you feel like the athletes are getting to the point where it's becoming routine things routinely on the practice field so that you can see some of those actions occur in the games?
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground in 2 weeks. We've got a lot more ground to cover, but I'm starting to see guys really pay attention to detail on the little things that are big with me, fundamentally speaking, and the flow of practice is starting to get smoother. Guys are starting to learn the offensive and defensive new schemes better, and I think guys are nothing makes me happier than when the things that you're telling them are important, that need to be player-driven and senior-driven, when you start seeing the seniors and then even some of the underclassmen kind of emphasizing a lot of those things during practice, that's when it's improving and guys are buying in, and I've seen a lot of that over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's got to be a good feeling from a coach's perspective. So are you I have not been to the practice field, so do you have one of those elevated positions so you can see down on the players as they're running the plays, or how does that play out for you in your mind and watching it all unfold? On the ground or up in the air? I
stay on the ground. There's a lot of things that need to go on during practice and safety measures and things you have to have in place, and so I stay on the ground. But we very fortunate with Meade County and how they support our athletics. We recently bought a drone for film, and that's really been a game changer in terms of what
Playback.
You can see, and I tell the players, like, I'm watching you when the ball's going away from you, because I want to know if I can trust you to play hard at all times, and I tell them the eye in the sky will never lie.
Yeah, that's true.
That's good. That's really good. When's your first game?
August 22nd.
And who's it against?
We are at South Oldham. That was before I joined the Army. I coached there in high school. My first game as a coach was on that field, so it'll be interesting to be back there.
So what made you join the Army?
I think I was going through that transition that a lot of athletes go through, when that's always been your identity and something that's really all you've known your whole life, and then it quickly ends and you're like, what is the next chapter for me? And I kind of thought I wanted to coach, and it was a blessing in disguise, because I made the decision to join the Army because it seemed a lot like football to me.
Yeah.
But the Army was downsizing at that time, so there was like a 11-month wait to go to officer candidate school. So I was like, what am I going to do? And first thing that came to my mind was coming back and maybe helping coach freshmen or something with Coach Mofield. And
Right.
randomly got in touch with Jamie Reed, who did an unbelievable job turning South Oldham's program into a winner. And I was there with Coach Reed on year one, and we really helped that senior class go out as winners, and that was an unbelievable experience for me. That's when I knew I wanted to coach. So I thought, I'll do the Army, see how I like it. And then when I got in, I realized it was a lot like football.
Yeah.
And a lot like coaching, and seeing the impact you can have on your soldiers, because most of them are 18 to 22
Yeah.
years
Right.
old.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that was very rewarding for me. Thought I would do the long-term military career, but I knew whenever that ended, I wanted to get back to high school football.
Yeah.
And then pure luck, ended up working at West Point with the team in an active duty role, basically the S3 operations guy, football operations, and then was going to stay in the Army, and Coach Munkin offered me a job, and could not turn that down. It was an unbelievable experience. Loved our players, loved our time at West Point.
Yeah.
But college football lifestyle is very hard on a family.
Sure.
And like Coach Mofield talked about, my parents are getting older, and when I heard the possibility of this job opening, I knew in my heart that if I was given an opportunity, that I felt the calling, that was for me.
Yeah. God is good all the time.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach Mofield, when you heard that Coach Powers was going to apply for the job, what was I'm sure you probably heard, there was probably a lot of applicants. When the final decision was made, where were you at mentally in hearing that news?
Well, as soon as the season, going into this season, I had a idea that it was probably going to be my last year. I had done this for a few years. My youngest son, Braden, was a senior last fall, and I felt like it was probably time to do something else. And so I made the decision to retire from coaching toward the end of December, 1st of January, and I'd had a conversation with our principal, Mr. Frank, that I wanted to get through our football banquet first, because I wanted the attention 100% on those young men, because we may not have won the number of games that we wanted to win last year, but those kids laid it all on the line and did a lot of really good things against a pretty tough schedule. So I wanted those kids to be honored first and foremost, and then I just told him I'd like to kind of go out like a vapor, and and then I wanted. I knew that that Meade County football was Dr. Martin and Mr. Frank and Todd Clanton, our AD, were going to do their due diligence in searching for a new head coach, and I kind of. I stayed out of everything. I really didn't have a lot of influence on anything, and then I heard that Blake was interested in the job, and he obviously his credentials speak for themselves. I mean he's been at an outstanding program with an Army, and his college football playing days. He brought a lot to the table, and he wanted to get back home, I think, and coming back to this community, he grew up here. This is home to him, so he knew a whole lot about it. And there were a lot of things that, and he alluded to it, earlier, that are in place here. The youth program, we started that back in 1994. Coach French wanted to bring that back. He felt like we were at a disadvantage, and we started that back. The middle school program has a former football player in Chris Brown that's running that, and Blake has former Meade County football, a lot of former Meade County football players that a couple of them that he played with, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was honored to coach or to coach these guys and then have them as assistant coaches on my staff. So that's pretty neat because they know the expectations. But there are a lot of things in place here, and I think for his future, there are things, and for the program's future, the facilities are going to be second to none. I mean, our football field down there is as good as anybody. Our
Sure.
setup is anybody in the state. Our weight room is probably, and Blake can tell you this better than I can. All the places he went to recruit, he could probably tell you that our weight room is probably just as nice as a lot of places that he went to, and even nicer. And then there's an indoor facility coming down the road, and those kind of things are commitments. And the indoor facilities is a multi-purpose. It's not just football.
Right.
The football field is not just football. That's the thing that I think sometimes people get the perception, but that's used for, you can use it for a multitude of things, you know. So, but anyway, there's a lot of things in place that I think for him, you know, not only being close to his family, but the long term here, the commitment to the program, not just in football, but a lot of things, you know, academics, all extracurriculars. But you know, obviously we're a little partial to football because that's what we've done, you know. But there's a lot of positives. And it's only going to continue to get better.
Can we expect to see you on the substitution teacher list?
You know, I don't really know yet what I'm going to do. I've told it, people ask me how you join retirement. I said I probably really won't know that first day back when. You know, now my wife still teaches. She has a couple more years, so she's reminding me every day when she has to go for these in-services and stuff of all the things that I need to get done before she makes it back
That's
home.
right.
Honey-do list, yeah.
So she's going to keep me on my toes, but you know, like I said, Meade County's my home, so
Very good.
I'm not going anywhere, and once it gets in you, it's hard to get out.
Sure.
You know, and,
I kind of know that feeling.
because you know, and you invest in you know these kids that Blake's going to be coaching. You know, especially all of them, but really this rising senior class, which you know is a special group of kids to me too. You know, and I know they're special to him, but and rooting for obviously all, but you know those kids are really you know, to see what they've done, because a lot of them played a lot of football for us the last couple of years, and to see them become seniors, because that's kind of the it's it, you know, it's the last time some of them will ever put on a football uniform.
Yeah.
And it goes by fast, and you know, so you want them to have success, and especially their senior year.
Will you be at the games?
I'm sure I know one Friday night I'm committed to Coach Wilson has talked me into going to Eric Church concert on one Friday night.
Oh, okay.
I'll miss one for sure. I don't know if that's a homer. Coach Wilson and I coach, and Blake alluded to him earlier. I can't say enough. I wish I could tell you but I was so fortunate to have a great assistant coaches. I mean, not only did we work together well football wise, but we were friends too. And I think that's even, you know, we enjoyed, and we didn't always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, I think I was loyal to them, they were loyal to me. I think Blake has developed a staff the same way. He has a couple of guys that were on my staff, Josh Trotter and Kurt Myers. And, you know, those guys were with me. They were former players. They played with Blake. So, you know, you're talking about pretty neat, you know, being able to coach with guys that you slugged it out with on Friday night. And but that was fun. I was just so blessed to have those assistant coaches, because that's really what, at the end of the day, you know, because sometimes, and Blake would probably tell you this too, he's dealing with stuff that it could be a discipline issue, it could be a parent issue, and you know, and practice still has to go on. You can't stop practice just because you got to.
Yeah.
And those guys don't get the credit they deserve. And we don't do this for the money. I mean, we happen to be compensated probably better than some school, but it's still it's a small percentage of what you actually make. You know, but we do it because we love kids, and we think the value of what they're doing, you know, is great. So that's the reason we've chosen to do it.
If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right? Coach, Powers, what are you going to be? Are you going to be a teacher as well in the school this year, or is it all dedicated to football?
Yeah, I'll be teaching. substitute hope that you're keeping out for Coach Mofield before we talk about me teaching. I'm holding out hope that he's going to get the itch to coach again here in a couple of years. Come coach with me, but
I got you. Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, maybe we can put him into some broadcasting. You got a great broadcasting
Yeah, he
voice,
does.
you know, Coach. We might have to get you in on a few shows to highlight the after
Could
plays.
stick him out there on the field with a mic.
Yeah, we could.
I
Yeah.
know it.
but yeah, I'll be teaching gym,
Okay.
PE and health, and then also helping a little bit with the Army JROTC program.
Oh,
which I'm
sweet.
Excellent.
really excited about.
That is awesome. Well, let me know because I can help you with that too. I'm the chapter president for the Fort Knox AUSA. So, and AUSA is highly focused on our junior ROTC program. So you let me know and we'll connect after this even more. But, Earlene, we've got a great paper going out this week.
Man,
You want to
really.
highlight the quick? I know the community calendar is full again. You would think that it would be dead after the fair, but
No.
we've got a lot
No,
of
it's
picnics
full.
coming up. And
Well, we've got that. And if you don't have a subscription, which you should have a subscription to the Meade County Messenger, but if you don't, you absolutely want to get this week's paper. It is full of pictures of the pageants and just the truck and tractor pull and the rodeo and all of that. We had people just swarming all over the fair all week, you know, just snapping pictures of everything. We even have pictures of that backseat driver thing and the watermelon eating thing. I mean, we had someone out for all the stuff. And so you want to pick up this week's paper. And then in another, I think 2 weeks, we'll have the fair review.
Yep.
And it will list every single thing that everybody won.
if you won something, your name will be in the paper.
If you won something, your name will be in the paper. That's exactly right. And it doesn't matter if you grew a plant that they thought was pretty or
Painted a picture.
painted a picture. I mean, they even had a category for Lego building.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. People won first, second, third places for their Lego building.
I did win third place in the 40 and up sprint on the tractor.
I
field.
heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I paid for it later, but
I
it's
bet
okay.
you did.
That lower back problem.
So you
thing.
don't think you're a candidate for Coach Power's team?
You call me in, Coach. I will bring some high quality H2O. But hey, listen, I'm super thankful to have you guys on today. It is honor.
Thank you.
It is a tremendous honor to have you in here and just to hear from both of you. I'm looking forward to a very exciting season.
I am too.
And to y'all's point, you know, I had the privilege of getting to go to church camp last week with my own boys, and I know that impact that it has to be that male role model in a lot of young boys' lives who become men someday. And I just want to honor the both of you and let you know that it's amazing what you have done, will continue to do, and we're looking forward to an amazing football season. But we just want to say thanks, guys, for having y'all coming in on the show, and you know, just a big wave out to everybody. Thank you, guys,
Yep.
very much.
All right.
Thank you so much for having
Thanks
us.
for coming. Appreciate your time.
They've got the scoop. Grab your papers and get in the loop. Breaking news with style and flair. Editor and publisher make